was a really, really, really little, very baby and toddler, we had a dog named Panda, a boxer, and she had such a strong maternal instinct and my parents are very much dog people. So they trusted her, and she had such a strong maternal instinct that they left me with her, not left the house, but they would, leave me in her care while they're in the room, sewing or doing other things. And so Panda would take care of me. And my mother tells the story, actually, that I never cried until I was 5 years old, because as long as I had Panda, she would go and get my parents when I needed my diaper changed, when I was hungry, when I needed anything. There's been times when I was crawling that she stopped me from falling down the steps and, would protect me from pulling glasses down from tables onto myself. And she just took care of me. So I was raised by a dog. And when I lost her to old age and cancer, I just continued on the path that she set me on. And so I was lucky enough to just find animals everywhere, and I would just bring them home with me. And I was very lucky that my parents were supportive of that. And they would help me get an animal to a vet who needed to get to a vet. They would help me set up once we had a little hurt squirrel, and we had to set up a little box in the bathroom with a little heat lamp and help the squirrel. And, so those were my little projects as a child. And that just continued on through today. So
I learn layers of you every time we hang out, and I have not heard that story. I love it, and it's perfect, and it makes complete sense. And so did Pandra help you to make that connection then, right? So you were raised by another species.
Yeah.
And so, and at what age did this connection that you obviously now have, that's one of the strongest connections that any of us can make, kind of come into your worldview?
Yeah, that's a good question, Dotsie. I think you're right. I think Panda is the one that initially instilled that. She loved me, and she didn't care if I wasn't a puppy. She loved me anyways. She saw me as a small little thing that needed love and protection and nurturing, and she gave it to me. And I have always viewed my relationship with other animals that way, in the sense that I need them more than they need me. And I truly believe that that's true for all of us. If we allow them to give all that they want to give to us, we need them more than they need us. They're wonderful friends to us. So as time went on, I grew up, and I started understanding that the word chicken actually referred to a chicken who was killed and put on a plate, or that the word beef actually referred to a cow. I didn't understand that when I was very young, but somewhere around the 6 or 7 years old range, that connection was made. And at the same time, I was being raised both Hindu and Christian. My father is from India and my mother is from the Netherlands. And so I was hearing all of these Hindu lessons about the sacredness of all life and the sanctity of all life, and how we are responsible for stewarding and protecting and guarding the life around us, and honoring that life, revering that life, really. And so, I was learning these lessons at the same time as I was receiving all this wonderful nurturing from so many animal companions. And at this point, it was a variety of species. There were, mostly birds and dogs in my younger years. And then we added cats. And then suddenly one day, Pigmont came along. And Pigmont was at that time, I was a young adult. I was involved in rescuing dogs and horses primarily. And I was involved with a large horse rescue. When we got to the location, the person had died quite suddenly. A fairly young man had had a heart attack, and so he had made no provisions for his animals. There were 16 horses there, and as it turned out, when we got there, we discovered there was also a pig. And he was magnificent. He was a pig that everybody said was ugly and old and smelly. I thought he was the most wonderful being on earth. We immediately bonded, and there were a lot of jokes amongst the rescuers. about eating the pig, even though they had great compassion for the horses. And that didn't work for me. It didn't feel right for me, and it felt mean to Pigmont too, So I took him home, and he was my first, official farm animal, if you want to use that strange phrase. So Pigmont came home, and at that time in my life, I was going through a lot personally, and I didn't have a lot of humans that I was feeling connected to and feeling like I could talk to about the things that I was going through. So Pigmont, at that time, I lived on a property where the barn was somewhat separated from the house, but enough where I could open the window and perhaps hear things that were happening outside. And so one night I heard Pigmont grunting when I was going to sleep, and I grunted back. So he kind of, oh, and that's kind of a friendly greeting. It's a pig greeting. So I said, oh, and he said, ha ha. And I said, ha, ha, ha. And so we started dialoguing like this, at night before going to sleep. And that just opened a door to so many things. It was all of a sudden he was my person. I didn't have any other pigs, and I didn't have any other humans. And, Pigmont and I became each other's people, each other's best friends. And so he taught me a lot. He taught me about how smart pigs are and how sensitive they are and how they're no different at all from Panda, the dog who raised me. He gave me that same level of caring and compassion and focused love, that unconditional focused love that we seem to be able to grow so much more easily with other species than we do with each other as humans.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. If we helped you in any way, then click the subscribe button and let's keep hanging out together. We have so much more to share with you.
And if you need more information on actually making the switch for good, please visit us at switchforgood.org for loads of info. And you can subscribe to our mailing list where you will receive all sorts of super cool gifts, discount codes to our very fave dairy-free products, and a lifetime of powerful health tips.
So join us on the journey to switch for good. This is the future.